Dr. B.
Hey, Valerie, how are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. How are you doing?
Ah, I'm ready to see what this is all going to be about and how we're going to proceed and what we're about to show and discuss with all of our viewers.
Exactly. I'm excited too. I mean, this week has just been a week, and I'm glad we can just go ahead and just take a moment to slow down, just to really think about ourselves, and just to do something that's going to be good for ourselves. So I'm excited.
I keep remembering some of the things we've done in the previous sessions, and I'm like, oh my God, yes,
Mhm,
yes, yes.
mhm,
So while we're doing this,
mhm,
I am taking it in
mhm.
and making adjustments in my own life.
Indeed. Same here. Same here. I was like, this is a great opportunity to practice what we're preaching. It's like you feel kind of hypocritical, like, goodness, I am sharing this with folks. Goodness, Valerie, dip into your toolbox, do better. So I completely get it. I understand. Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
this one about self care is going to be a little different.
Okay.
So, I'm going to ask you a few questions, just kind of see where you're going to go. So, this one is about boundaries.
Mhm.
And what are your ideas about boundaries? What do people kind of believe boundaries are, particularly as it comes to self care?
All right. So, goodness, I can think about me personally, right? I Back in the day, I thought that if you knew me, that you would understand, right? I didn't have to be explicit with you. Like if you
Hmm.
knew me, you knew how I rolled. Boom, you know what my boundaries are. You know what my red lines are. You know not to cross those. If you're rolling with me, you already know. Little did I know, Shamika, little did I not know. If you're not explicit with people, like as things arise to say that this is the firm no for me, or I do not feel comfortable with this, or I do not appreciate this, or this doesn't align with what I'm doing in
Hmm.
my life, that people will try and they will test and they will see. But what I have learned and what I now embrace and accept is that I have to be clear with people. If it's in a work environment, maybe from the very beginning, of this is where I'm going, this is what I'm aligned with, this is
Hmm.
not what I'm aligned with, and I'm not going to feel comfortable. We might have to pass this off to, someone else in relationships. It's being explicit, like, this is definitely a no go for me. This is, so at first I thought that if you knew me, if we hang out, if we're friends, if we're co-workers, if we're partners, you know. But
Hmm.
no, people don't know. They don't know, or they would assume, or they would think that, well, she didn't really say it. So I guess it's kind of okay. So I guess maybe it will fly. Maybe I can test the waters to see. So definitely having to be clear, but taking time to explore what those are, and to say and to share with people, let them know that, yeah, this is it, or no, that's not it. That doesn't work for me.
Well, I thank you for
Mhm.
your insight. And I kind of figured you kind of somewhat talk that way when it comes to boundaries.
Mhm.
And so today I'm going to explore a different way to view boundaries because as you were speaking, it's more about the other people.
Mhm.
And this way of dealing with boundaries, it's about ourself and
Okay.
what it is that we're allowing ourselves to do and not to do,
Mhm.
which can impede upon self care. So let's just have the image of we've all got stuff that we're holding on to. And it's like we're all walking around with a bunch of baggage.
Mhm.
More than likely, we don't need all the baggage.
Mhm.
All that baggage we're walking around with is not ours to carry. And so we're going to go through three questions
Okay.
that's going to help us release some of this baggage
Mhm.
so that whatever it is you're carrying is actually your load.
Yeah.
Like we're all going to be carrying something, but can it just be your stuff
Mhm.
and not other people's stuff
Mhm.
that you have chosen? Because
Mhm.
it's a choice for the most part, except for those, rare occasions that we've
Mhm.
taken on somebody else's junk.
Yeah.
So you
Mhm.
ready to write some of these questions
I got
down?
my
Because the
paper,
three
I got my
questions.
pen, I'm ready.
So the first question is, who are you responsible for? And as you all think about this, I really mean who you're responsible for, not who you believe you're responsible for, not who you think you're responsible for. And so I like to give people examples of, like, if you have pets,
Mhm.
I mean, they might on their own get into everything, but they truly are completely dependent upon us.
Mhm.
If you have children that are minors,
Mhm.
they are completely dependent upon you. So that's kind of how you answer it, is, are who is completely dependent upon me,
Mhm.
because that's who you're responsible for. And I do hope that as you will answer this, you will actually put yourself down. Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
So then the next question is,
Mhm.
what are you responsible for? At times, people confuse the who with the what, and they'll write down people's names. No, 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 no. The what are you responsible for should not have anybody's name there. So if they didn't make it to the who are they responsible for, more like who are you responsible for, they're
Mhm.
not to be written down. So what are you responsible for? I mean, for me, I would say, I got bills. I mean,
Mhm.
don't we all?
Mhm.
I'm responsible for going to work.
Mhm.
I'm responsible for the duties that I have at work. I'm responsible for certain things in my home, the
Mhm.
things that I take care of. I'm responsible for ensuring that my mental wellness is okay, ensuring that my spiritual health is okay. So this is like a super duper duper long rabbit hole list
Yes.
that you can create, but really making sure it is what you are responsible for
Mhm.
and not what you're choosing to take on.
Mhm.
It's those things where if Valerie doesn't do it, it more than likely won't get done
Mhm.
because it is Valerie's responsibility.
Exactly. Mhm.
And the final question is, what are you not responsible for?
Mhm. I
Oh, I
think,
saw your face.
I want to remind everyone we are a PG rated show or a G rated show. Okay, so say number 3 one more time. Let me write it down.
What are you not
Okay.
responsible for? And when I've done this with people, like, they're like, what do you mean? Oh my gosh. And then they're like, wait a minute. I'm not responsible for the way that person didn't like what it is I had to say.
Mhm.
I'm not responsible for making
Mhm.
my spouse happy.
Yeah.
And the
Mhm.
list goes on and on and on and on. So think about the things that you're carrying. Think about the things that you feel responsible for, that you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do it. I must do it. Do
Mhm.
you have to do it? Must you do it?
Mhm.
Is it really dependent upon you? Or is it your spouse's responsibility?
Mhm.
Is it your coworker's responsibility? Is it somebody else who you don't even know the name to responsibility, but you've chosen to pick it up and put it on this is what I'm responsible for?
Mhm.
And as we
Mhm.
begin to tease away and putting
Mhm.
things, hopefully a lot, into
Yes.
the what am I not responsible for,
Mhm.
we release baggage that we've been carrying around.
Hey, hello. Mhm.
And it's literally those three questions.
Mm.
And you sit and you write and you walk away, you come back, sit,
Mhm.
write, scribble away, erase, put
Mhm.
stuff down, sit around like, mm, mm, mm. If you
Mhm.
want to break it down into several different lists, saying, using those same three questions, and just think about your family,
Mhm.
your immediate family, your household. or you
Mhm.
think about your extended family.
Yeah.
Use these same questions when it comes to work.
Mhm.
Whatever different environments that you're in, y-
Mhm.
apply this. And what are you putting on yourselves? Because we're responsible for what it is that we carry around.
Exactly.
And that does affect our self-care.
Mhm.
When
Mhm.
we're running around trying to do for other people that are 100% capable
Mhm.
of doing for themselves, come
Mhm. Listen. So I think about for the person who might want to definitely answer these three questions. If you're feeling a sense of like overwhelmed, like, oh my goodness, I just feel so overwhelmed in my life. Like I
on.
feel like
Mhm.
so overwhelmed with all my responsibilities. I think answering these three questions will help to probably begin to help someone wonder about, am I really overwhelmed about something that is for me, or am I overwhelmed about somebody else's problem,
Mhm.
concern
Yes.
too as well? I like this. It is sweet, it is short, it is simple, but boy, is this thought provoking. I could spend like a whole day just really contemplating, over any one of these three questions to really hone down, as to, what am I responsible for? Who am I responsible for? What am I responsible for? And what am I not responsible for? I was thinking when you asked that question, right? What do you, that third one? I was watching this segment of Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is like this
Yeah.
financial guru who tries to get people out of debt and back on track financially. I think the older Dave Ramsey gets, the less he has a filter. He's just like, I've been doing this for 40 years. People just need to get your lives together, right? This lady calls in, and apparently her and her grandmother were on a game show. And I want to say between her and her grandmother, they had probably both walked away with close to $500,000 each. So
Oh
she
my
was
gosh.
exactly. So she was calling Dave to really be intentional about, that her share of the winnings. Grandma had half a
Mhm.
million, she had half a million. And she was really trying to be intentional about what should I do with my half million, savings, before
Mhm.
I can get it, before the check even gets to the house,
Oh,
what
that's
should I do?
beautiful.
And so Dave was asking her, what are some of her thoughts? What are you thinking? Asking her about her debt. And she was like, some of her thoughts were like, I've got these cousins that I got to
Oh,
give,
how did I know you're
some
about to say
to,
that?
and I got to give some to these family members. I'm wondering how much should I give them? And he was like, okay, absolutely nothing, zero, zero. Why is that your responsibility to give them some of your winnings? Like, why? Like, you're telling me about your debts that you have. Why is that your responsibility? He was like, well, because my cousin said da da da. He was like, that is not your burden. You
Mhm.
did the work. You
Yes.
did this. If you feel as if they ask grandma, if grandma feels so compelled that, other family members should be getting stuff, then grandma should be the one, dishing out some of, her winnings. He was like, you are not responsible or obligated or compelled. You don't have to feel compelled to do any of that, So really think about the why, you are trying to do this, the why behind it, because it is not an off-top obligation. Like I did the work, I won this, now
Mhm.
I have to give you. No, these are fully functioning grown adults. If you want to say that this person has been a blessing in my life and I want to bless them back, not that's something completely, different rather than, okay, I've got 18 cousins, I got to figure out how to divvy up this among my 18 cousins. No, rethink it, really rethink about the why. Because as Dave said, these are fully functioning adults. Why?
Yes.
Why? Why? And she didn't even think of like, oh gosh, let me reframe my thinking. And just to think about, oh my goodness, just that boundary, just because I'm obligated to, no, no, no.
And this can take it even further of like, why do we feel obligated? It's one thing to
Mhm,
write down, what am I not responsible for?
mhm,
But it's also getting to the root of why did I ever feel responsible for that to begin with?
yeah. Mhm,
Because we can write this list and you can
mhm,
put everything on there. But
mhm,
now what are you going to do
mhm.
if you're really honest with yourself?
Mhm.
and you really like data dump from your head onto this sheet
Mhm.
of paper, now what are you going to do
Mhm.
with those 20 items that are there that you've said is not your responsibility?
Mhm.
It's time to let it go.
Mhm.
But
Ooh,
then
ooh,
getting
Dr.
to
D,
the
I got a
root,
question for you. Oh my gosh. So it's
and
kind
then
of
getting
like
to the root to not pick it back up again.
exactly. Oh my gosh. How do you tell people like when they are so accustomed to you crossing that boundary and doing the things, how do you even begin to tell others in your life like, nah, it's a new day. There's a new
Just
sheriff
like what
in
you just said. No, it's a new day.
no, no does not come with an explanation. No can just be a full
No is a complete sentence.
sentence.
No, period. If
Period.
you want to put an exclamation point there, that is just fine.
Yes.
And being okay with
Mm-hmm.
people being uncomfortable and not liking the decisions that you're making.
Yeah.
Because
Mm-hmm.
we can be guilted
Yeah.
into things, be like, all right, I'll just take it off of the I'm not responsible. I'll just, I've been doing it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
No,
No.
no. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been there where
Yeah.
decisions that I made where I was like, you know what, this is just not my responsibility. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, I've had the aunties like, and I'm like, oh,
No.
I was like,
Mm-hmm.
door shut, can't open, not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I got to think about my own peace.
Mm-hmm.
And there's definitely the stutter on the other end, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
grown. Like, what you really gonna do? Sorry, y'all, but like, that's just like,
And it is okay because I think about that too. It's like I am not the only solution. Like coming to me or going to you, Shamik, is not the like we are not the be all end all, to it. Like if they don't come through for me, if they don't do this for me, then it's all gonna fall apart.
it's really not.
It's really not. It's really not.
It's really not.
Because I think even in our own individual lives, we've had to figure it out outside of other people to say, how do we make this work? How do we keep this thing going forward, this thing called life moving forward?
Because in reality, it wasn't their responsibility. And
Mm-hmm.
there are people that are around us that have created these boundaries without realizing they've created these boundaries. And
Mm-hmm.
they're not jumping in to like
Yeah.
figure anything out for us because they're like,
Mhm.
ain't my business. That's what
Yeah.
some people say. That's their not my responsibility, ain't my business. And they keep on going. But yet we're empathetic. And it's
Yeah.
like, if you
Yeah.
hear yourself saying, oh, but that
Yeah.
means put it
Mhm.
on the list of not your responsibility.
No, it really isn't. So yeah, I do implore people if you're feeling that sense of overwhelm, or if you're just around certain people where like, I'm not comfortable in this space. Like there's something that is coming at me that is just not making me sit well with being in this space or this work situation, to really think about, okay, let me really reevaluate what is happening here. I got to tell a story about one of my interns. She's graduated and she is flourishing, in her profession.
Mm-hmm.
And, she still comes to me for supervision, but she shared that she was just feeling really overwhelmed in her new position. She loves it, but just a complete sense of just being overwhelmed. And I was like, tell me, what are the day to day is looking like? What responsibilities are day to day? And I was like, that does not sound like the position that you were hired for. It sounds
Right.
like you are taking on, some of these other things, and it's taking away from this dream job that you had truly, wanted to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question is like, yeah, I would hear it over a couple of sessions, just still overwhelmed. I mean, and she looked overwhelmed, right? I'm just so overwhelmed, and just her looking overwhelmed. I kid you not, I got on the line with her about 2 weeks ago, and I was like, you look different. And she was like,
Ooh, she
I
left
mean,
that job?
no, she's still at the job. She had a conversation with her boss about
Oh.
all the things that we were talking about. This is where I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. This is where, I'm going to have to say no to these type of responsibilities to
Mm.
really focus on what you hired me to do. And she said the conversation went so well. She's like, why didn't I have this conversation months ago? I was like, girl, you look different. you're carrying yourself different because you're no longer holding, and your boundary is firm. Like, you hired me to do something super specific, and I'm here to go ahead and do that to help, this agency grow and flourish. And so I was like, just to being able to see it play out in real time, like, I am the professional boundaries just crossed, just crossed. And just to get those back realigned, how it
Mm-hmm.
just impacted her, just her appearance, and how that's impacting her home life, her social life, and just also the work life. It's like, oh my gosh, if you can really just take a moment to say, seriously, what am I responsible for here? This isn't my bucket. This isn't my cup. This isn't, my task. And then to have that courageous conversation, with her boss to say, hey, listen, I love it here, but mm-mm. Mm.
She was her own advocate.
And I mean, as social workers, we have to, like I said, we got to practice what we preach, right? So we hope we're, for all our non-social work listeners too, as well. This is what we do all the time. It's like we advocate for others, and sometimes it's really challenging advocating for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
but once you do it, it is super empowering, especially when things fall in line the way they're supposed to, because your voice has been heard. People might not like it, but it needs to be heard.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope this was helpful to everyone listening.
Mm-hmm.
And as Valerie said, take your time. It may take a day, two, a week, a month, however long it takes. Just continue just to think about different situations, but particularly just start off with where you're saying you're overwhelmed at
Mm-hmm.
to see, do I really need to be carrying this?
Mm-hmm.
So that you can release some of it and just feel a little lighter at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. And I would love for people to put in in those comments too as well, because sometimes people think that some things are their responsibility. When you figure out what are you not responsible for, drop it in the comments. So other people who are really struggling, like, oh my gosh, but no, I have to. If I don't, then oh my God, no. Let people know you are not responsible for that. I would love to see it.
Yes. So we thank you for joining us
Mhm.
and just walking with us as we continue to navigate what self care is.
So until next time, you guys, take care.